Hello and welcome to DRF Digest. My name is Matt Charles, Communications and Public Relations Director for Danville Regional Foundation. On our inaugural episode, we're going to sit down with Carl Stauber, DRF's President and CEO. And then in months to come, each month, we're going to sit down with grantees, visit locations, and speak with some of our partners. So we look forward to having you along the ride with us on DRF Digest. We're lucky enough to be joined today with the President and CEO, the first President and CEO of DRF, Carl Stauber. Carl, how are you today?
Great, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. You coming back, or you coming to DRF, this is like a homecoming of sorts for you, isn't it?
In some ways it is. I mean, I grew up in Statesville, North Carolina. My wife grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia. We had one of those kind of, after we had been married 5 or 6 years, we said, let's go to another part of the country and try it, and we'll come back in 5 years. Well, 35 years later,
yeah,
we got the opportunity to come back. So we were very excited. I still have family in Statesville. She still has family in Lynchburg, and we hope to take care of both of those families. So it's been a great opportunity for us.
So how did that come about, you coming back to this, or you coming to this region as far as coming to DRF?
Well, you know, both my wife and I had for some time been talking about it's time to move back to the South. And so I first heard about this opportunity through folks at MDC in Durham who had done a lot of work with the Foundation's board and with initiatives at the community college and other groups in the region. And so really, I mean, David Dotson called me up one day and said, there's a job I think you ought to think about applying for. And I said, okay, tell me why. And he said, this is a place that is at the front edge of transformation. And he and I had been talking for a number of years. We go way back, and we've been talking for a number of years about the opportunity to move back, make a difference in one place. I'd spent most of my career kind of jumping on and off of airplanes. There have been years when I've been on the road 200 nights a year. And so the opportunity to come back and actually focus on one region and take all the things I had learned, whether I was when I was working at U.S. Department of Agriculture or whether I was with a foundation in Minnesota or Ohio or Colorado, it was really a great opportunity to kind of bring that back home.
I mean, that's just so serendipitous that a friend of yours would contact you and you could put all your skills to use in an area that's, you know, close to your home.
Yep, it was great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the question of, a lot of people wonder what DRF is, how it started, you know, how we've gotten to this point now, some 6 to 7 years later. If you could talk about that a little bit.
The foundation was created in 2006. The original endowment of the foundation came from the sale of the hospital. And the foundation from the very beginning had a geography of Caswell County, the city of Danville, and Pennsylvania County, which was really the primary service area of the hospital. We are not related to the hospital today. We're a separate entity, and we focus in 4 broad areas: health, education, economic development, and community capacity building. We tend to have there are many other important funders in this region. We're really lucky to have the Community Foundation, the Grant Trust, J.T. Mauld, Minnie Mauld, Carrington. We're really blessed to have a lot of different players. We tend to focus on the long-term change of the region. How do we build a new economy? How do we create living income jobs that will support families, not just getting by, but will support families in prosperity? And so we tend to look at opportunities that are going to make a difference, that are going to have a real impact, but do it over a 5 to 10 year time frame rather than kind of the short-term needs of the community.
Okay. And could you speak to that a little bit more as far as a living wage, what that is?
Yeah. Well, our calculation is that for a person to be able to support a family, they don't need to start at, but they need to be able to get to in a job between $15 and $20 an hour, plus health care benefits, those types of things. So when we work with local economic development professionals, or when we work with different groups in the community that want to create new economic opportunities, one of the questions we ask is, if we're creating more $10 an hour jobs, what we're really doing is forcing more people to the free clinic, to God's storehouse, to those kind of places to be able to make it through the month. We think a much better strategy is to help people to have the education and the skills and training they need, and then the opportunity to create a situation where they're more at the $20 level than at the $10 level.
Which is where this long-term planning comes into play versus just a quick fix.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned this as far as the partners throughout the region. We cannot do this without the partners.
Everything that DRF does is done in partnership with somebody else. You pick any of the major initiatives. Our effort on Smart Beginnings, which is a joint venture between the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation, a local Smart Beginnings group, and the local United Way, and DRF. All these groups come together, and then they bring other groups together. There are over 30 groups that are part of Smart Beginnings. And they are working on something that's simple to say and hard to do. We want to make sure that every child in our region gets to the first day of kindergarten with the skills and experiences they need to prosper.
Okay.
Right now in Danville, for example, about a third of our children get to the first day of kindergarten already behind. If you're behind the first day of kindergarten, it's really tough to catch up. And so Smart Beginnings, this collaborative effort, again, between United Way, between the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation, and then through them, lots of other groups in the communities, is really making a difference on the ground. So, I can't think of a single major initiative that we've done where it hasn't been done in partnership.
Right.
So that's very much the norm.
Yeah. We've had help in Caswell County with the medical center down there.
Yeah, the Caswell Family Medical Center is a great model. It's something that's been going on for years. It's very kind of bottom up. It's recognized as a comprehensive federal health clinic. So it gets some federal support. It gets community support. It's got a strong community board. They came to us a couple of years ago and said the demand is so high, we need to expand. And so we gave them a challenge grant. They had 3 years to raise the match. They raised the match in about 4 months. And part of it was they were in the perfect place at the perfect time with the stimulus initiative.
Right.
But they also got Kate B. Reynolds Healthcare Trust out of Winston-Salem and some others to bring resources to the table. And they now have this wonderful new expansion of their facility so they can do a better job of not just for 1 day or 1 week, but for years, helping to improve the health outcomes in Caswell County.
Yeah, it's amazing. My mom's from Caswell County, Yanceville area, and she spoke of how you either had to go to Burlington or Danville for medical care.
Yeah.
And now,
or if you're at the south end of the county, you went to Chapel Hill.
Chapel Hill, yeah.
But that's increasing. If people can stay home and get quality health care, then it's a really positive step in the right direction.
Yeah. And then also we're neighbors to the north with the Old Ag Complex up there.
Yeah, Old Dominion Ag Foundation, it's not quite finished. You and I were up there a couple of weeks ago for the Junior Livestock Show.
Yeah, I've got some great pictures of you.
Yeah, well, that was a lot of fun. And, I got to hand out a couple of ribbons to a couple of young people. But it's a great facility that has the ability to do everything from ag shows, and Pennsylvania County is it's probably the most ag successful county in the Commonwealth. So there's a show place for agriculture. There's a place for people to come together. Again, it's got a great community board of directors. They've gotten support from not only funders in the area and the Tobacco Commission and some money out of the governor's office. They've also gotten support from the various construction firms that worked on the project, the county. So, I mean, that's a great facility. We provided them with $900,000 to help kind of finish out the arena, which is, JT Mini-Mall gave them support for conference facility. So it's a really, I mean, you can do everything, you will be able to do everything up there from high school graduations and proms to cattle judging operations, to auctions. They're talking about a wine festival at some point. So it becomes another bright spot and economic magnet in the region.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, it hits upon economic development,
right?
Community engagement. There's educational aspects there.
That's right.
It's everything comes together.
Yeah.
Now, speaking to the bright spots, I mean, these were some of the bigger initiatives with which DRF has been involved. How about some of the smaller ones, the new Make It Happen grant program, or not so new now? We're hitting about 18 months in on that.
Yeah, October 2 years ago, DRF, again, another great example of a partnership, DRF, Riverview Rotary, Averett, Chamber of Commerce, I'm probably forgetting somebody.
I think those are the four.
Those are the key four.
The key four.
Came together to do the first community read. And over 4,000 people in this area read copies of Switch. And the subtitle of Switch is How to Change When Change is Hard. It's a wonderful book. It's not a heavy academic piece. It's very much kind of a how-to. What I liked about the book is that it has lessons for us personally. It has lessons for us in organizations, churches, schools, businesses, and it has lessons for us in communities and as a region. So it hits multiple levels. Then we had last October 2010, we had Dan Heath here, and he and his brother are the authors of Switch. And so as part of our speaker series, they talked about Switch. And then exactly 1 month later, we announced a new initiative called Make It Happen. And when we did Switch, after we had finished it, we asked everybody in the audience, the 600 folks that showed up to hear him make his presentation, to fill out a card and ask them what they were going to change. But we had to ask ourselves, what are we going to change? We can't ask somebody else to change and not be willing to change ourselves. So that led us to create Make It Happen. And what Make It Happen does is what we're trying to do is we're trying to help people in this region that want to make something positive happen quickly. We're trying to create more bright spots, which is one of the things that the Heath brothers talk about. And so we'll now make, our big grants can take 6 months to 12 months to make, because we get business plans done and we do careful review and all kinds of things like that. We try and make it happen grants in 2 weeks or less. Somebody comes in with a letter. Under the regulations we operate under, we have to make a grant to a nonprofit, a religious institution, or a local government. And so somebody comes in, they want a grant of $10,000 or less to make something concrete happen, not just inside their organization, but for the broader community, and it's going to happen in 90 days. So we've now done over 50 of these. And they range from the exercise station down on the Riverwalk Trail, or the community gardens that we've now done 5 of those, but one of them is about 2 blocks from here. the cleanup and the refurbishing of the plaza around the school building on Main Street.
We have great examples in Pennsylvania County as far north as the playground.
That's
Gretna.
right, in Gretna.
You know, down in Caswell County with Stony Creek.
That's right, with the
outdoor
elementary school there. And we're continuing to make these, and hopefully some of the people watching this program, somebody will say, you know, there's something I've always wanted to improve about our community. And I haven't been able to do it because it takes $5,000, and I don't have $5,000. But I have the passion, and I have the network of friends, and we're going to go make it happen. One of my favorite examples is a project that a young man here in the community did as his Eagle Scout project. And it's the bike wash out at Anglers Ridge, at the wonderful mountain bike trails out there. He saw one of these at outside of Asheville and thought, wow, it would be great to have one here. So Darren Herman got together a bunch of his friends, and he designed this thing, and we provided him through the city with a grant for $1,800. He got the city's permission. He worked his way through all of that kind of stuff, and we now have this wonderful bike wash out there that happened because one person wanted to make a difference. And that's what Make It Happen is all about.
And it's been great to see people who typically would not be engaged in this process come out and take advantage.
Yeah, it's not, and part of what we're trying to do is, one of our challenges is we all say, I want somebody else to do this. You know, I think city government ought to do such and such, or I think the school board ought to do such and such, or I think a company ought to do such and such. Well, Make It Happen is not about you're saying what somebody else ought to do. Make It Happen is about what you ought to do.
Right.
And the purpose of the small grants, small, fast grants, are to do away with the barriers. You know, if getting a couple of $1,000s is a barrier to you building a community garden in your neighborhood that's going to help improve nutrition and build a stronger neighborhood, then we can help make that happen.
It's such a, I mean, pardon the term, a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the residents get to actually take ownership.
Yep.
Businesses coming in and see, hey, these people are actually care about where they live, so that creates a stickiness where people want to come in and be involved.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's got lots and lots of positive energy, and part of what we're trying to do is kind of overcome what I call the pernicious pessimism. You know, one of the shocks to me when my wife and I first moved here, and we love living in Danville. We live near Averett. It's a great neighborhood, great group of people. But somebody came up to me and said, what did you do wrong in Minnesota that you had to move here? I didn't have to move here. I could have moved anywhere I wanted in the country. I've spent at least 3 weeks in every state in the union. I got a pretty good sense of America. I chose to come here. And so Make It Happen is about people taking responsibility for making this place better, rather than just pointing to somebody else. And I think as we build those types of things, I mean, even in the 4.5 years that I've been here, I've seen the shift occurring from us talking about what we used to be to talking about what we are and what we want to be. I've seen this shift. I mean, the new Y is a wonderful example, which we're providing substantial resources for, about $9.5 million. The rest of the money, they still need to raise a little more money. The rest of the money has been raised in the community. And we're going to have a world-class Y that's going to be on the Dan River. It'll be the first building in 100 years built in Danville facing the river.
That's amazing.
It'll be right on the Riverwalk Trail. It'll be an icon. It'll have a wonderful view of downtown, and from downtown it'll be a great thing to see. So these are the kind of examples of, I mean, part of our job and our partner's job is to help see the possible. And, you know, the one that's going on right now, literally a couple of blocks from where we are, is when I first got here a number of years ago, somebody said to me, well, that's not going to happen until the downtowner's torn down.
And now?
And now they're tearing down the downtowner. People can go on the city's website and actually watch it from the website. There's a live feed. And so, you know, we hope by the end of the summer, we're going to be having a great conversation here, not about how do we get rid of this ugly old building, but we're going to be having a great conversation about, well, how do we use this space? And how do we make this space part of the continuing transformation? I don't know what ought to be done with that space. And that'll be part of the community conversation that we get to engage in.
Speaking of the possible, what do you think the possible is for this area? We can even say specifically the River District going forward.
Well, DRF is now in the River District. And again, it's a partnership. We've used the old Dibberl Diamond complex on Bridge Street. As I look at the future, I see the future right here. I see the future on Bridge Street. So here we have the IDA of the city. We have Averett University moving their graduate and professional studies down here, and soon their health sciences studies will be here. We have wonderful condos next door, which is where I lived when I first got here before buying a house, that are now full. We have a new Cray supercomputer with Noblest just across the street. We have LifeBat just across the street. Directly across the street, we have an international marketing firm, Infinity Global Packaging. We have Horizon Tech diagonally across the street, which is kind of back room for a lot of banks. Under the street, we have world-class broadband access. So not every place is going to look like Bridge Street. But Bridge Street is an example. And I think part of what's important for people to remember is the revitalization of Bridge Street, in some ways, probably started 20 years ago.
Yeah. I grew up in Danville, and that's what I was thinking. And just looking out the window here, how different, Carl, this place is. Yeah. Revitalization doesn't happen overnight. It takes planning and people in partnerships and people coming together. And I mean, we've really gone from a textile, tobacco-based economy, manufacturing, working toward Bridge Street, which is more of a knowledge-based economy. And I've heard you speak of knowledge-based economies numerous times.
That's right, and that's why Averett's so important. That's why DCC is so important. That's why the Institute is so important. But you know, you go to the far end of Bridge Street, and you've got, a group of people got together and saved the train station. We have the crossing of the Dan. We have the wonderful Carrington Pavilion. We have the great community market. One of the things I really love is on Saturday morning coming down and seeing all the different people and all the different food items you can buy in the community market. And then you move on up the street and you have, so we all want change to be instant and we want it to be positive. Well, if change were easy, it would have already happened. But think about how much progress we've made and how much progress we are making. Moving forward, the River District's a great example. As I look around the country at places that have turned themselves around, one of the places I think about is not far from here, 70 miles away, Durham, North Carolina. I ran a halfway house for kids on parole and probation in 1970 and 71 in Durham, and it was a tough town. And there was a reason there was a wall between Duke and Durham. The relationship between Duke and Durham has changed entirely. We don't have a Duke, but we have many assets that we can both repurpose and reuse. And again, this building's a great example of it. A year and a half from now, there are going to be 200 nursing students down here every day. That's 200 other people in the river district pumping more energy into the river district. We'll have people coming here to participate in that. So if you look at Durham or Greenville or Manchester, New Hampshire or Lowell, Massachusetts, it took them a number of years to make the transition from the old economy to the new economy. We're making that transition right now. And the kind of businesses you see in the River District are part of that, the same way as you see entrepreneurs out in Pennsylvania County who are doing new approaches to agriculture, or direct marketing of beef coming out of Caswell County. There are all kinds of things going on. The days of having one big company that is going to take care of everything, we're never going back to those days. And so instead what we have is a diversified economy. But in all those places I mentioned, part of the rebuilding and repurposing themselves was they didn't give up on their downtowns. They revitalized their downtowns. And that's the process we're in right now, again, in close cooperation with the city, with private investors that are increasingly looking at Danville. One of the things that's exciting, and to me it's a sign of how things have changed. In about a week, we have a group from Thomasville, North Carolina, and they're coming to Danville to see what the possible looks like.
It's interesting. Danville's actually becoming the example.
Danville's becoming the example of progress. And people are coming here to learn from the chamber and the city and the county, Averett, DRF, and others about, wow, how are you doing this? And I think you have to keep reminding folks, it's doing it, it's not done. This will never be done. This is continuous work. We have to, just like we have to work with kids every day to make sure that they're ready for the first day of kindergarten. As an economy, we have to rebuild competitive advantage every day. It's not something, we used to be able to do it every 50 years. And then we were able to do it every 20 years. Well, in today's high-speed global economy, you have to do it every day. And thank goodness the city had the foresight, and Tobacco Commission and Mid-America Broadband and others to do things like build the world-class capacity in broadband here in Danville that puts us ahead of a lot of other places around the United States.
And Carl, we've spoken about organizations, municipalities that have made it possible for Danville to be the example of progress. What can our viewers do to help with that and just to make their own dreams of bright spots possible?
Yeah. Well, I would ask the folks watching this program to do a couple of things. One is, if you have an idea of something that you've always wanted to see here, that wouldn't be just for you or your family or your organization, but would benefit the broader community, come in and talk to us about a Make It Happen grant. Because we want to, we've done 50 of these. We want to do another 50 of these. And the more bright spots, I think the more we show people that change is both possible and positive, the more people will come to believe that. So that's kind of one option, one opportunity. The second one I would mention to folks is, I'm going back to my earlier comment about pernicious pessimism. You know, when you hear somebody say, this is a lousy place to live, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, I hope the people watching this program will start to challenge them. There are no perfect places. Every place has challenges. But the opportunities here are large and they're growing. And so if people, we need to change the conversation from one, where we're complaining about what used to be or what we don't have, to one where we're taking responsibility for what we need to have and what we want to have. I mean, the young entrepreneurs that are opening shops, for example, on Main Street, let's go support those people. Mm-hmm. Let's help them grow their businesses, because as they grow their businesses, they pump more energy into the River District. And as the River District has more success, it pumps more energy into the region. As new people come in from out of town, I mean, one of the things that's been wonderful for my wife and I moving here is how welcoming people have been. But I would encourage people to be welcoming with how can we make this place a success for you, rather than why did you move here?
Yeah.
So we need to change the message. We need to change the script, and I think that's happening. I'm running into more and more people who are shifting from the kind of the negative. I mean, we've got to talk about our problems. We got to take our problems on. You know, we've got plenty of challenges, but there's no place that doesn't. And so we have to take those on and take responsibility for them. So those would be a couple ideas for the folks watching the program.
Carl, thank you so much for joining us today on DRF Digest.
It's great to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Crossing at the Dan in historic downtown Danville, Virginia. The crossing began as a hub of activity for Southern Railroad, with rail houses, freight stations, and a rail yard. Today, the crossing stands as a top-notch entertainment complex. Each facility hosts various special events and programs throughout the year, and is also available for private rentals. Let's take a look at the available facilities here at the Crossing at the Dan. At the center of the crossing, the Pepsi building began as a bottling factory and has been converted into a multi-use banquet room. This facility is perfect for private parties, wedding receptions, public meetings, and recreation classes. The Danville Science Center delights visitors with its hands-on exhibits and special programs that make science fun for all ages. Friendly staff and volunteers are ready to help each visitor explore plants, animals, physics, rocks and minerals, and more. Also located with the Science Center is the amazing Butterfly Station and Garden, one of only a few butterfly greenhouses in Virginia. The Community Market Building was once a freight receiving station for the Southern Railroad and still contains the original wooden floors and infrastructure. The market now houses the Danville Farmers Market, as well as numerous special events and programs. The centerpiece of the Crossing at the Dan is the Carrington Pavilion. The Carrington Pavilion is a large outdoor amphitheater that boasts 1,100 covered seats and room for 4,000 more seated on the lawn. This facility continues to host national acts each year, along with many regional and local bands. The pavilion is also used for special events and festivals that draw people from all over the region. The Carrington Pavilion is available to rent for corporate picnics, large family reunions, and other special events.
Okay, viewers, I need your help. It's come to my attention during our break that our name, DRF Digest, is a terrible name. And being that I came up with it, I need you to help me keep my job. So what I want you to do is email me, Matt Charles, at DRF. So it's going to be mcharles@drfonline.org. It's going to be on screen right now. Please take time to write this down, mcharles@drfonline.org. Offer up any suggestions you have for the name of the show and send them to me, because really, obviously, I need help in naming the show. And also, any comments you have or any things you want to see in the future on DRF, no longer DRF Digest, but whatever the name becomes, please email them to me as well. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.